Welcome to this. That has no name actually. This is just people connecting together. I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I'm Terry Kilakos, President and CEO of Northeast Mortgage and Real Estate Agency.
I like your presidency because it's so cool. So the purpose of this connection and this sharing is to know how this crisis affect people and will affect people on the long term. And we're talking about more the economy than the virus itself. Can you give us your take?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is obviously unprecedented. We haven't seen something like this occur before. We've seen similar things happen on a smaller scale, when we saw SARS and H1N1 occur. And, obviously, a lot of us have lived through, what happened on September 11th. I would kind of bring this closer to what happened back then. I think that the long-term effects of this are going to end up causing a recession. I think that even the housing market is going to, in the immediate future, might take a little bit of a hit, but will actually bounce back pretty quickly. We're gonna feel the effects of this for a little while.
You mentioned that the restaurant will be kicking in, but then the real estate market will bounce back. That
hmm
doesn't make sense to me because if people lose their job, how can they buy
hmm
houses?
So the layoffs, we have to understand, right? I mean, everything that's happening currently is kind of on a temporary basis, right? So all the layoffs, yes, the numbers have gone crazy. I think yesterday's number, there's over 1 million people in Canada that have applied for EI, right? That has There's a couple of different types of people in there. There's the people that are trying to take advantage. And unfortunately, I think there's a huge number of the population right now that's actually trying to take advantage of the system and try and get some free money from the government. So that's the first type of person that's in there. The second type of person that's in there is actually the people that need this. They have been laid off and they need to, get some money in from the government. Those people will get the money starting April 1st, but then once this whole thing is behind us, whether it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, they will eventually start going back to work, and there will be, people will go back to kind of their everyday lives. That's why I believe that the real estate market will probably end up bouncing back fairly quickly. It won't happen overnight. It's not going to be something that's going to occur from one day to the next. But I don't think that it's going to be something that's going to have an effect over years. That's what I meant by it.
And you've been very quickly taking action, and you post a petition online. Can you
That's right.
explain to us your petition and also what is the motivation behind it?
So the first thing that we need to understand is there's a ripple effect that occurs in real estate. And this is where the danger comes in. Mortgages in Canada are backed by mortgage-backed securities. In the States, you had collateralized debt obligations once upon a time. They still have collateralized debt obligations. They have MBSs as well in the States. These MBSs are a financial vehicle, which means that it needs to pay return to the investors every single month or every quarter, depending on how the MBS is actually set up. If the bank is not collecting any money from people, then what ends up happening is they are not able to pay those returns back to the investors. If they're not able to pay the returns back to the investor, then that means that that MBS will collapse because people will do a run on the MBS and they're going to actually be taking their money out. So that's the first thing that needs to be understood. If we go further up the channel, you have renters, for example. Renters are already threatening landlords and they're saying, well, we're not going to pay rent because we don't have jobs, we don't have this, we don't have that. They're forgetting that they're getting money from the government and they've already decided that they're not going to pay their landlords, even though most of them haven't actually been impacted by the crisis just yet, right? So they haven't gotten a financial hit just yet, but yet they're already threatening a weekend that they're not going to be paying next month's rent. So let's assume that X amount of people are not able to pay their rent. Well, if X amount of people are not able to pay their rent, what ends up happening is those landlords are now not going to be able to pay their mortgage. If they're not able to pay their mortgage, the banks are not going to be able to pay the loans on the actual on the MBSs. So now it ends up creating a ripple effect. So what the government needs to do is they need to step in. Part of the petition, which we did, was to help subsidize not only the tenants, right? So not only the people that are applying for EI, but they need to help subsidize the actual landlords and say, hey, are you being impacted by this? A landlord is a small business owner, but yet no one is talking about them. Nobody is talking about these men and women out there that have these small businesses, whether it's a duplex, a triplex, a tenplex, and helping them out. Most of these people are living paycheck to paycheck or rent payment to rent payment. So when a tenant is not paying, they are not able to pay those bills.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but the government took initiative to postpone all the mortgage payment for 6 months. Is that helping the landlord?
It's BS. It's not true, because think about what you just said. You just said it. Postpone those payments, right? We're postponing them. A lot of banks, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you, yes, no problem. We're going to give you a payment holiday. It's not 6 months. It's 1 month that they're giving people. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it's deferred to the following month or broken up in a couple of months, depending on the financial institution. Some banks will even impose that you pay the interest. So they're going to tell you, no problem, you're going to defer the capital, but the interest is still payable right now. Property and school taxes, if you have that built into your payment, are still payable right now. So the government opened their mouth. They basically started talking about how this, the bank should do this and the bank should do that, but they didn't understand the fundamentals behind the banking system. They don't understand the way that the banking system works. The other thing is, what about payment holidays on credit cards? What about during this crisis for credit cards to actually lower their interest rate? Why has no one talked about that? Because it's obviously not sexy, and the people that are funding the government behind the scenes, and now this is the conspiracy theorist in me, is the big banks and it's the credit cards, right? So obviously everyone's got to kind of look out for the credit card companies and whatnot.
Actually, just to make it fair,
Yeah.
usually you're a loan officer. You
Mm-hmm.
own a mortgage
That's right.
firm, and you're defending now the people that are borrowing money.
I've always defended the people that borrow money. If you look at any blog post that I've ever done, if you look at any on my radio show, anything that I do, I am not for the banks. I am always for the people. I always have been. I always will be. I am the
What's the
people.
cap
I'm
for?
not a bank.
But help me clear it out here. So mainly, you explain to us a system that nobody understands clearly,
Mhm.
and what are you proposing?
It's very simple. The petition that we put out, okay, it's to basically get the government to force the banks, number one. If you're going to do a payment holiday, you do it across the board, no questions asked. Okay, so it has to be something that's government put in place by the government. Part of that program, instead of kicking money back to individuals, maybe the government can say, well, you know what, your mortgage payment is X, it's covered. You know, I don't know what their mechanism could be.
You
One
know,
thing's for
in
sure,
France,
they could.
they stop everything, huh? In
What's
France,
that?
in
Yeah,
France, they stop everything all across the
but
board.
in France, they don't necessarily have, they don't also have the same system. They don't have the mortgage backed securities like we do. Italy did the same thing. They just said everything ceases. Well, you know what? That would be the ideal. That's what would make sure that people would stay home and not move.
And who has the power to do this?
The government does. The
Which
government
government?
has
Which
well,
government?
the federal government.
So
The
mainly
federal
you're
government,
targeting the federal government, who
absolutely.
has the power to call those shots. But
The federal government has the ability to cease everything and just say everything stops at this moment. This is what's going to guarantee people to stay home.
so
If
Terry,
you still have payments to make, you are not staying home.
actually, there's nowhere to go at this stage.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They took care of that. Have you targeted an authority who can help you pass this bill?
I've sent out requests to a couple of different people, including a couple of politicians that I know. Right now, we're gathering some momentum on the petition. I'd like to get a few more signatures on it, and hopefully by the
How many
end
do you
of
need?
this
How many
weekend,
more
we'll
do you
be.
need?
I need 500,000 to be honest with you, but I would be happy with 10,000. Right now, we're halfway there.
Oh, okay. Within how long?
Within 3 days.
3 days, 5,000 signature. That's
Five
great.
thousand signatures. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what do you think can help you get to those 500,000 signature within the next 2 days?
Um, I need people to share the petition. I need people to realize that the banks are not necessarily there to help them. They're there for their interest. They are a business at the end of the day. It's understandable. They are there for their interest, but we need to get the government to do more, to step in at this time of need. It cannot be a, hey, this is what you should do. It's, this is what you're doing, and this is what we're going to do to help you out to be able to do this.
And just to make it very clear, what you're asking the government is to subsidize the landlord, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm asking the government to subsidize the landlords, okay, for missed rent payments of their tenants. Number one, I'm asking the government to force credit card companies to reduce or eliminate interest charges during this time period on credit cards. And I'm asking the government to force the credit card companies to allow them people to have payment holidays for 1, 2, 3 months, depending on how long this is going to actually take to blow over. And of course, not just for landlords, but also for the average homeowner to force the banks to actually be able to take proper payment holidays.
So,
Those are the main points.
so people, if you feel concerned, here's somebody who's helping you, and he's a loan officer. Keep that in your head. He's a loan officer. He knows the system, and he's there to defend you.
People that need to focus on this is homeowners and anyone that has a credit card, which pretty much takes up 100% of the Canadian population.
As I've been in your shoes, and I'm doing the same thing for my industry. And the question people keep asking is why you're doing this.
I've always said that my job doesn't start when you get, sorry, it doesn't stop when you get a mortgage. It actually starts when you get a mortgage. And this is just a continuation of that. I am supporting my clients, I'm supporting my community to make sure that once this crisis is over, that people have jobs to go back to and homes to live in.
Thank you. In the name of the population, thank you. We need people like you. I thought I
Thanks,
was
brother.
smart, but I just learned a lot today. So Terry, what will be your next move after you have those 500,000 signature? What will you do?
To get that message to the right places. You know, the unfortunate part is I've contacted so many people from the Liberal government, and you would tend to think that they would be very receptive to something like this, but no one is. You know, so I'm obviously going to have to start looking at the opposition right now.
Actually, this one thing to be fair, our government is they're overwhelmed. It's mainly to take care of what they don't take care of at this stage. I think that
Yeah.
this is the main message. Is we're trying to keep order, but where is a misfire, we just
Yeah.
have to redirect the bullet to say. Can you do something for dentists, for the whole industry who's listening to us? Is there anything you think that you can help us through? Because we still have a rent, we still have our mortgages, we have a staff, and we have no help. And the insurance has to say no to everything.
Well, this petition is exactly there to help small businesses. It's, and a dentist is a small business in
So
many
Lenny, this is
cases.
not about landlord, it's about small businesses, right?
But if you look at the petition, there's actually different points that we're trying to attack, right? And one of them actually talks about more support to the small business owner. There has to be done something. Something has to be done about it. And I don't know if you've actually gone through the exercise to see what kind of support you can get. Right now, the systems are so inundated, the government is so inundated, that by the time anything gets back to the average consumer or to the average business owner, this is going to all be over. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses are going to be over, small businesses are going to be over because of this. So the government, especially in Quebec or in Canada, has basically said to us, stay home. Okay, what are you going to do to make sure that I have a business to come back to after? And you know, something as simple, all the government needs to do is look back over the last number of months, call it 6 months, call it a year, and say to each person, how much business, how much did you pay in GST, PST, for example? Okay. How much did you pay in taxes and sales taxes on a monthly basis? That right there is a metric that could be used to be able to give you back something, a subsidy back from that. But the four main points, the things that you need to remember. Number one has to do with the interest rate on credit cards and payment holidays on that. Number two is to help landlords so that their mortgage payments are subsidized so that they can actually give a break to renters. Number three, it's to actually force banks to give those payment holidays. And number four is to actually help the small business owners and to give money back to them so that they're actually able to keep their businesses afloat during this hard time.
So many, what you need people behind you so you can have your voice across, right? This is what you're telling us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So people, I think that the stake is so high. Help Terry reach that 500,000 voices. You have what, 3 days left, 5 days left?
3 days left. Yeah.
The minutes are important and the days are passing. And a lot of us has investment, has real estate. If you have contacts, if you have friends, or if you think you have an influence that can help all of us through this, just write to Terry.
So whether it's Facebook, you can go /Terry Kilakos, or even on Instagram, Instagram.com/Terry Kilakos, you'll find my account. But as well, you guys can reach out at the office at 514-680-4674. And you can even send me an email directly at skilakos, so S like Sam, Kilakos, Kilakos, at northeastmortgages.com.
So people, just listen to this. Credit cards, this is for the customer. It's all of us. This is not just business. It's all of us. Then you're talking about the landlords. So I think that most landlords will react to this, but if the landlords are subsidized, they can give a break to their renters. So it's, again, most of us. And then we talk about banks. If you're not a renter, you're an owner, it's still all of us. And then you talked about the last one. I'm sorry, I missed the last one was?
Small business owners so that they can, hello, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot about myself. But mainly what I'm trying to say here is we need 500,000 signature. And just in Quebec, we're 8 million. And this is for all of us. I think it's a time to show solidarity. Not to say that we are complaining, but we have to do something before it's too late. There's a lot of lives here on the line. And the virus is critical, it's important, but also the economy. That's the only thing that's going to keep us going after this crisis. If you
Absolutely.
If we're still alive.
We'll all be alive. I think,
is that a blessing?
I'll tell you something. I'm the eternal optimist.
We believe in hope. We believe in the future.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to get through this if we keep our head up. But I think that there's a unique opportunity here for the first time in our lifetime that everybody interest is aligned.
That's right.
We all have
Absolutely.
the same interest. We don't have to fight against each other anymore.
Yeah, and it's survival, right? And at the end of the day, that's what's important.
So in the name of everybody here, even those who haven't realized yet that you're fighting for them, thank you.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
We need people like you to be looking over your shoulder to say that, okay, what you don't understand, this is critical. We need people like you to remind the government that, oh, maybe they have overlooked over something, and this is also critical. I think the trends we have in stages, there's a lot of business people running us. So they are very sensitive to this matter. But again, I think that there's some priorities to pass first. Our job here is just to remind them that we're here to help. We're also here to reassure the population, because the worst thing that's going to happen now is panic and fear. And with this, I hope that you'll be joining us back to tell us what you did with that 500,000 signature.
Absolutely.
For the first time of our lifetime, all the interests of the world, it's aligned. I think it's the best time to us to just shift mentality, to go from competing to collaborating.
Absolutely.
So there's no right, there's no left anymore. It's just us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry, thank you so much for your wisdom.
Absolutely. I think that we need to give each other a nice virtual hug here and come in, man. What do you think?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Come on. Get right in there. There you go.
Thank you again.
All right. Be well. Take care.
Stay safe.